Okay. Okay. Uh, Yesterday we began looking at wisdom literature and various forms of wisdom literature. We just looked at the introduction to the to the poetic books, which includes all of the, yeah, you can mute your mics. Please mute your mics. Okay. All right. So we've been looking at poetic books and introduction, right? And different kinds of literature, genre or literature style in poetic books. All right. It looks like even today here, humidity is so high, and I already started sweating here right in the church. Anyway, okay, so let's begin with Job. I think I don't know whether I started. Okay, let's look at again. Job. Let's look at the title, a Masoretic title. In the Masoretic text, what is the title? It is Job, right? Job, that is the word for Job. Masoretic text is the Hebrew Bible. Hebrew Bible. Then Alexis, that is Septuagint, has got same kind of Greek word like Job, and of course translated as Job. And Vulgate has done as Liber Job, the book of Job. That's how this has been given, title is given. What we need to do is to look at the authorship and date. When was the book of Job written and who is the author, right? Two things we need to consider here. Authorship. Neither the book of Job nor the other 60 books of canon specify who author was. So that is something that we need to look at. If you look at, you may not really specifically see statements in the Bible who has written all these books. So many times we speculate, right? By looking at the context, by looking at the writing styles, and by looking at maybe some of the events that happened. So we can say author appears to have been an Israelite for sure. Author is Israelite because he used the word Yahweh, and it was used in this book 25 times in prologue itself. So you see Yahweh is used, and one of these found in Job's mouth in the prologue itself. Job itself using the word Yahweh. So for sure, yes, the author is an Israelite. However, based on the absence of any Israelite records claiming him as a Jew, we can infer that he was not a Jew. Maybe so. Yes, he is using in the book you see Yahweh, but now we may not know exactly. Maybe another person also can write this material by using the word Yahweh. So it is possible, right? So the fact that neither the friends nor Elihu used the name may indicate they were not Jews. However, these are not absolute conclusions. The fact that author uses divine name 23 times suggests that maybe he was a Jew. So we don't know. If you look at the author of book of Job, we don't know who wrote this book. That is very clear. And I looked, searched many commentaries to find out, is there anyone who wants to be dogmatic about the author? Some say he was a Jew. Some say he was not a Jew. Well, we are not sure. So who wrote Job? We are not sure. Maybe I know when I studied in the Bible college, someone was suggesting that it was Job who wrote the book of Job. Job wrote book of Job. I don't know. It's very, it's not at all clear. So that is the first thing we need to get in our mind. Now let's talk about date, right? When I evaluated the date of Job, okay, that gives us some clue here. Okay, when this book was written. Now, let's look at the events in the book of Job. It indicates that it is written 2nd millennium BC, right? How do we know? For example, the names of Sophar, Bildad, Eliphaz, 3 names. These 3 names suggest that, okay, these were the names that were common in the 2nd millennium, right? First half of the 2nd millennium, actually. So, name suggests it is written in the 2nd half or first half of the 2nd millennium. Now, not only that, book of Job, and if you read the writing style, you know that this resembles A&E literature, right? It is from the same period. So there are a lot of literatures being written. Now, if you are someone who may be familiar with the literatures and maybe thinking that we have all the literatures now when books were written, but understanding cultures thousands of years ago, especially Near Eastern cultures, were very rich culture, right? Very rich culture. That's the reason now you would be amazed to read Psalm. Imagine when these Psalms were written, thousands of years ago, and beautifully written when there was no printing press, when there was no paper, it was written. So understand, so olden time, ancient time, cultures were very rich where people write stories, literatures, and many other things, documents. So Job resembles any literature from the same period. Not only that, in the prologue of Job, you see Sabaeans and Chaldeans, right? 2 names. Sabaeans and Chaldeans. This appears to be time before they became a sedentary population. So that also suggests that book of Job was written in the 2nd millennium BC. Not only that, there is one more thing to suggest. Job reflects patriarchal practices. Remember patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, they're all called as patriarchs, right? Job also reflects that practices. What is that? Job, as the head of the house, offered sacrifices, right? Remember, Job offered sacrifices for his children and for Job himself. In the patriarchal time, it was the head of the family who worked as a priest. Head of the family worked as a priest. And there was no any separate priesthood, right? Only after Moses, we know Levitical priesthood, Aaron came into scene, priesthood began. But before that, the head of the family worked as the priest as well. Not only that, Job's wealth was reckoned in livestock like Abraham and Jacob. How many cattle, how many donkeys they have. So looking at the numbers, so when these numbers are given, we know that this book is written in the first half of the 2nd millennium. So yes, are we able to establish when it is written? I mean, yes, we know that this has come from the 2nd half of the millennium BC. We don't know who wrote it. Absolutely no clue who wrote the book of Job. Now, as far as We looked at the events. Now maybe we can look at date of the writing for the book. Okay, when was the actual date when the book of Job was written? There are 5 different views, right? Maybe including Moses and Solomon. So let's look at the first view. Says in book of Job was written in patriarchal days. Before we go there, even though you have the events that was going on during the patriarchal days, that doesn't mean patriarchs wrote, right? Doesn't mean. But some people believe that this is written during patriarchal days, like time of Abraham, Isaac, or Jacob. Some would say Job himself wrote this book, right? And this is usually offered on a popular preaching level by conservative scholars, right? There are many people who think that it is written by Job himself. The major reason for this suggestion is to solve the transmission problem. However, we have the same issue with the primeval and patriarchal narratives in Genesis, right? The question is, who wrote Genesis? We know Moses wrote, but what is the problem? If Moses wrote, how can he write events that he has never witnessed? Because Genesis records, the creation event itself. So what we are saying is that yes, God revealed to Moses, right? That's the reason Moses wrote. So people say Job wrote the book of Job because Job is the only one who is able to explain what was going on at that time. That is the logic behind it. But I don't think it is necessary, right? How in the question would be, how did Moses resolve this information? So that is not it is not a necessary thing to say Job must have written this book. No. In addition, the book of Job is written as if Job was an ancient man, not was an active actor, as if he was an ancient man. And it is very interesting to observe that very few Jewish scholars have opted for this. Most of the Jewish scholars don't believe that it was written by Job. If you read the book of Job, the narration goes this way, as if years ago, hundreds of years ago, something happened this way. That's how the narration goes. All right. So some believe that this is written in patriarchal days and mainly written by Job himself. That is the first view. All right. Second author, probable author is Moses. Actually, rabbis held this view, and some church fathers also held this view. Archer also suggested this, or a pre-Mosaic writing. Archer also said could be Moses or someone just before Moses. Like, for example, Job follows the Pentateuch in Syriac version of the Old Testament. That was one point. What is that? The wording of Job, the quotation from Pentateuch in the book of Job is not a Hebrew direct quotation, rather a Syriac version. So there is a reason. Now I will talk about that one later, why somebody suggested that way. From Qumran, you got only Job and Pentateuch are found in a Paleo-Hebrew script. Oh, what is that? Paleo-Hebrew script. All right. Let me say a few things about Paleo-Hebrew. Paleo-Hebrew was the ancient script in which Bible was originally written. All right, listen carefully. What do you have in the modern Hebrew script was not the original script that Bible was written, right? So, for example, now the original script is like this: Aleph, Beth, Gimel, right? Dalet. You know, that's how Hebrew is written now. If you go to Jerusalem, Israel, this is the script, right? This is the alphabets that they were using. But when the Bible was originally written, this was not the alphabet. Of course, the words were the same, right? Words were the same, language was the same, but the script was different, all right? And that script was known as Paleo-Hebrew. All right, let me see if I can see any evidence of Paleo-Hebrew here. Okay, maybe, yes, I might be able to pull this out. 1 second, I can maybe here show you.
Things in stone.
Yes, it is a font means it is a script. Yes.
Pictograph, like.
Yes, but it was written. Let me see if I can forge this. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, some people call Proto-Hebrew, which is the same Paleo-Hebrew. So you have Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, all right? If you look at this one, all right. Is it coming? All right. This is Hebrew. This is modern Hebrew, right? This is modern Hebrew. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, He, Vav, Zain, Ket, Ted, Yod, Kav. Okay, and ends. You know, all of the 22 letters. But Proto-Hebrew, same Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, He, Vav, Zain, same thing, was written differently, right? The script was different when the Bible was written originally, all right? Of course, letters were pronounced as the same. Letters were pronounced as the same, reading is the same, grammar is the same, everything is the same, but the letters were different. All right? So when I say Bible is originally written in Hebrew, that is right, but that original Hebrew alphabets were different than today's Hebrew alphabets. Today, Hebrew alphabets are modern Hebrews, whereas they are old Hebrew, that is Paleo-Hebrew. All right? Paleo-Hebrew. All right, so now you understand Paleo-Hebrew. So, yes, Job and Pentateuch were found in Paleo-Hebrew script from Qumran. You know about Qumran? Qumran cave, right? I think in 1947, 45, or no, 47 or somewhere, 47 to 48 or somewhere, they found scrolls of the Bible in a cave. So if you happen to visit Jerusalem, Israel, you will have the opportunity to go to Qumran and look at the same cave where we found like Bible manuscripts that are hundreds and hundreds of years ago written on scrolls. So some people think that it is written by Moses. No clear evidence. And some others wanted to say it is written during the time of Solomon, like some early rabbis. And not only early rabbis, but Martin Luther and Kalen Delitzsch. I think I had given you his book. Kalen, one of the old great Old Testament scholar. He has written commentary on the entire Old Testament, right? Kalen Delitzsch. So they believe that it is written by Solomon. Why? Mainly because of the word kokma. Word kokma, wisdom, is used many times in Job's writing. That is, some people think and some others think that this is written during Manasseh or Jeremiah's day. So now you can see people say, yeah, no, it is not that time, it is later. And some people would say, no, it is much more later, post-exilic, after Babylon captivity. And especially many critics like liberals would argue this is written after the exile, right? Now, what I wanted to give some clarification here. First of all, against that this, if someone said this is written very late, we cannot accept it. It's not written late, it is written very early. So what we need to understand is Job was not suffering because of any sin that he had committed. Israel was, right? So when people say book of Job reflects maybe it's emblematic of Israel, no, it cannot be. If you really look at it, it's not, that's the case. Job was not a national servant, whereas you have, if you read Isaiah chapter 40, Jesus Christ or the Messiah was considered to be a suffering servant. Job was not suffering for the nation. And liberals will call Deutero Isaiah, and they say sometime, no, this is written like book of Isaiah. Liberals say book of Isaiah was written by two different authors. So there are two authors for Isaiah. One is the first portion of Isaiah is written by one person, that is chapter 1 to 40, and for then 40 to rest is then another one. So they call Deutero Isaiah. There are two authors. So they are the liberals. They say, no, Job was written very late, right? And they argue that Job, book of Job reflects, or it is the reflection of Israel's life. That is what some people think. I don't think there is any reason that book of Job reflect nation Israel. Most probably this is written earlier than Israel has come into scene. And one more thing, let me say here, Job's suffering was not redemptive in nature as a suffering servant in Isaiah, because some people said they brought a lot of clarification, a lot of comparison between book of Isaiah and book of Job. Especially liberals have done it to say that this is written very late. Now, what we need to understand, this book is not written very late. This is written very early. And my suggestion would be is that it is written maybe somewhere around time of maybe Moses. Maybe we don't know at time of Moses. We don't exactly who wrote the book of Job. Now, location, we know clearly, location of book of Job, it is Horan and Edom, right? So this is, Horan is the south of Damascus, you know, today Syria, south of Damascus. That is the place where this incident has happened. It is located in the southeast region of Dead Sea, right? So not much significant on that. Now, yes, here is one literary composition. The language of Job. What else we need to understand about the language of Job? Is it not, as I said, this is written in Paleo Hebrew. In most of the Old Testament is written in Paleo Hebrew, yeah. But that is not also issue. There is one more. There are many hapax legomena in book of Job. All right, that is maybe a new term for you. All right. What is hapax legomena? Hapax legomena is that a word is found only one time in the Bible. Let me write, one time word. Right? If a word is found only one time in the Bible, that word is known as hapax legomena. For example, in the New Testament, there is a one word like that, which you know it. You know what that word? In Paul says to Timothy, all scripture is God breathed. You remember? All scripture is God breathed. You know what is the Greek word? Greek word is theop. Okay. Let me write in English. Theopneustos, right? One word, God breathed, right? That is a hapax legomena. So in the book of Job, this word doesn't come in any other place in the Bible. Now, only one time. So hapax legomena. Now, in the book of Job, there are many hapax legomena. Now, so why hapax legomenas in book of Job? Maybe so some people would say, yeah, you know, actually what happened, this is book of Job is a translation from another language. Some people, there are some authors who would say it is actually translated from Arabic, right? Some would say it is translated from Aramaic, and others would say it is translated from Edomite, right? So that is what some people's argument. No, we are saying this is not right. Why? If any of these are accepted, we must admit that we do not have the language from the original preserved. If it was been translation, that means we don't have the original. In this case, we will never be confidently be able to say we have an accurate representation of the original Job. There is no original then. So that's a problem. But I would say, no, the reason why many have hapax legomena and what is the reason for different language? I am saying this is written in genuine Hebrew, all right? And some people have suggested that book of Job is written in a variation of Jerusalem Hebrew. Well, you might ask, oh, is there a Hebrew like that? Jerusalem Hebrew. Friends, it is like if you are in North India, you will see many types of Hindi. Many types of Hindi. For example, in Delhi, I think most of the people speaks Hindi and Urdu mixer, I guess. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. No one speaks original Hindi.
No.
But maybe some other parts there, if you go to Bihar, Hindi is different. UP Hindi is slightly different. Everywhere different. Just like that, Hebrew in Israel, in various areas, it was different. So Jerusalem Hebrew is somewhat, there is not a major difference, slight differences. For example, Ephraimite, there is a northern dialect. Ephraimite Hebrew, the dialect is different. I am coming from Kerala, and if I look at the language in Kerala from the south to the north, of course, everything is Malayalam, but completely different in the way that people speak, a lot of differences. So I'm saying here, yes, same thing in Israel, northern dialect. It is based on similarities between Hebrews of Job and Phoenician and Aramaic. Yes, in the northern part, a lot of Aramaic influence is there. Just like that. So when they write, when it was written there, you will see Aramaic word, just like here in Delhi, most of the words come from Urdu, in Hindi. So it doesn't mean that it is, someone is written here in Delhi, if they use Hebrew, maybe Urdu word, it doesn't mean that writing is translation of Arabic or Urdu. No, not necessary. And then there is Transjordan Hebrew, right? In Transjordan there are some Arabic influence, and then so what I'm saying is the difference in the language of Job. Different wordings are there, not because it is translated. Maybe it is written by someone from a different location of Israel. All right, Israel. That's what I wanted to say about the language. That's it for today. All right. Now I wanted to talk about literary structure, how the story formed. Right. It's literary structure. If you really look at the book of Job, right? Book of Job has a way of explanation quite interesting. Book of Job is written in a way that most of the, when people write stories or maybe even novels, see, written just like that. So maybe in the beginning of the chapter, you have some of the settings, right? Chapter 1, your settings, then action begins, right? And then you have conflict generated, right? Job health is gone, everything is gone, children are dead, and conflict arise. Job is questioning, and then conflict gets intense. Then it takes a long time. Conflict goes on. Finally, conflict begins to unravel, comes down, and then you have the conclusion. So that is the literary structure of the book of Job. If you look at the book of Job in a literature way, right, as a literature. I will stop here. Now we will talk about literary